Welcome to Margate, once known as Meregate, more recently known as Shoreditch by the Sea, due to its likeness to the London town.
You may know it as a seaside resort, one of the best in the country, or you may know it as a rundown ghost town. But we're here to show you around and teach you a little bit about the roller coaster of its history.
Margate was once simply the parish of St John's, built in 1050, and served as a small unremarkable fishing village on the Isle of Thanet. It became known as Meregate due to its location as a gap in the chalk cliffs that at high tide would form a shallow lake in the area that is now an amusement park. These large shallow lakes are referred to as meres. You may have heard of Lake Windermere? In the 17th century, some of the mere gates were blocked in order to stop enemy ships or pirates sailing into the midst of the town, including the one at Furness in 1618. The name Meregate was in use as late as 1264, but by 1299 it had been shortened to the modern name Margate. Nowadays, Margate is a large town made up of smaller districts including Cliftonville, Westbrook, Garlinge, Dane Valley and Salmston. Because of its size, it became a borough by itself in 1857, but in 1974 it came under the jurisdiction of Thanet Council. Originally, the village of St John's Parish was located around the current High Street, while Dane Valley, then known as Lucas Dane, was an entirely separate village. Westbrook and Garlinge were simply small clusters of houses. The church was intended as a chapel to support the growing Mother Church of Minster. Its earliest known mention tells us that in 1124 the Archbishop of Canterbury ordered the restoration of the churches in Thanet, including Minster, St John's, St Peter's and St Lawrence, or Margate, Broadstairs and Ramsgate respectively. In 1521, when Henry VIII, during his dissolution of the monasteries, took control of the church in Minster, it lost its ties as Mother Church to the surrounding areas and each parish became more independent. People have lived in the area for many centuries. Artifacts dug up include Roman axes, coins and tools, and brass cutting implements used by Druids. In the Margate Museum, an exhibit showcases an Iron Age skeleton, and in Tivoli Park Avenue, the remains of a Roman villa were discovered. Sometime during the reign of Edward the Confessor before 1066, the Confederation of the Cinque Ports was established. 5 large ports were partnered and many smaller ones were later brought under their jurisdiction as limbs. In this arrangement, Margate was brought under the control of Dover in 1229. As such, the people of Margate answered to the Mayor of Dover, who had one of his deputies stationed in the town. This lasted until Margate became a borough in 1857. Margate has been a popular seaside resort for over 250 years and a traditional holiday destination for Londoners. As such, it heavily featured in the Christmas special episode of the classic sitcom Only Fools and Horses and was subject of a 1982 single by Chaz and Dave that reached number 67 in the UK charts. One of the main attractions over the years has been the Dreamland Amusement Park, originally called the Hall by the Sea. It was run by George Sanger, famous for his circus acts and menagerie. A monument to the Sanger family, featuring a mourning circus pony, can be seen in Margate Cemetery, which is also home to a number of albino squirrels. 2020 marked 100 years since Dreamland opened its famous scenic railway. The roller coaster is Grade 2 listed and is the second oldest of its kind in the world. It is one of 2 in the UK, its younger sister being in Great Yarmouth, and they are 2 of only 7 in the world. In 2008 it fell victim to a fire, which was suspected to be arson, but most of the ride was saved and has since been restored. In 1980, Dreamland opened its Big Wheel, which became an iconic part of the skyline during its time. In 1950, a new attraction came to Margate, the Mechanical Elephant. I don't mean the Wetherspoons pub that is on the seafront today, I mean the actual mechanical elephant that the pub is named after. The elephant was designed as a ride for children. Jenny was a steel 8.5-foot elephant that could flap her ears and wave her trunk with realistic movement and had an 8-horsepower petrol engine which powered her to move up to 28 miles per hour. Her trunk also served as an exhaust pipe. When she retired from giving rides along the seafront, she was bought for personal use by the famous comedy actor Peter Sellers. Dreamland was closed for almost a decade between 2006 and 2015, but reopened following a lengthy Save Dreamland campaign. It has since become a great venue for live music, hosting shows by the likes of the Gorillaz, the Specials, Kaiser Chiefs and Faithless. Margate's reputation as a popular resort has attracted some of the biggest names in entertainment over the years. The first ever gig I went to was top loader at the Winter Gardens, but the town has hosted legendary acts Status Quo, Slade, Deep Purple, Roy Orbison, the Yardbirds, Tom Jones, Lulu, the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, Bill Haley and his Comets, and even Dame Vera Lynn. In 1947, the iconic comedy duo Laurel and Hardy played their only ever Kent show in the Winter Gardens and stayed at St George's Hotel in Cliftonville. Performing arts have long been an important part of Margate culture. As well as the Winter Gardens, it is home to the Tom Thumb Theatre, which is the second smallest theatre in the country, and the Theatre Royal, which is the second oldest, having been built in 1787 at a cost of £4,000. It burnt down in 1829 but was remodelled in 1879, shortly before becoming Britain's first drama school between 1885 and 1899, producing many of the era's notable stars. One student, Evelyn Milliard, would play Cicely Cardew at the premiere of Oscar Wilde's The Importance of Being Earnest in 1895. In 1786, the artist J.M.W. Turner attended school in Margate, and his memory is now honoured with the Turner Contemporary Gallery, which opened in 2011. He once described the Thanet skies as the loveliest in all Europe. At the end of the harbour arm is a bronze shell lady representing Miss Sophia Booth, who he lived with until he passed away in 1851. You may recognise Turner from the 2018 £20 note, which also features Margate's Turner Centre and Harbour Arm on the hologram. In 2013, Alex Chinnock took a vacant house in Cliftonville and turned it into an art installation called From the Knees of My Nose to the Belly of My Toes. It has since been restored as housing. Poet and playwright T.S. Eliot also spent some time in Cliftonville in 1921 as he recovered from a mental breakdown. He mentions Margate in his most famous poem, The Wasteland. Poet laureate John Betjeman dedicated an entire piece to the town, simply named Margate 1940. Join us next time when we talk about the things that made Margate famous and some local legends.